Hi guys, welcome to Metal and Rock Zone. It's Friday, there is new music, and today I want to talk about the 14th studio album by the Swedish band In Flames called Foregone. Came out today. And I want to talk about the album, what are the best songs, how does it sound, how are the new members. There are people on this album, well, at least one that hasn't been previously on an album, and how this album ranks within the catalog, and what type of band actually is In Flames today. And and also, I wonder if a band like that can kind of take a journey outside of where they came from and go back there. Um, Before we start, then a reminder, social media. We have Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, so please follow us there at Metal and Rock Zone. So I knew very little about In Flames because of certain reasons that I will get into later, but I saw them live actually in the autumn last year, autumn 2022, and I was kind of blown away. I had no expectations. I went there to see a different band. You can actually check out my concert review. I gave them 11 out of 10. And I was completely blown away. I mean, this band had such an energy on stage and so on. And I was like, wow, okay. I started looking forward to this album. And of course, it didn't harm that Anders Friden, the singer of In Flames, he was speaking about this album in the concert. So let's see what Anders said when he was talking about the new album.
Next year, February, we have a new album coming out. And I heard it. It's fucking awesome. If you don't look at this honest face right here, it will be your best friend for the next 10 years, people.
Yeah, so Anders is obviously very unbiased in his evaluation of his own album. It's the 14th album, and this band is kind of one of the three melodic death metal bands out of Gothenburg that came out around the same time, Dark Tranquillity and At the Gates being the other two. And since 1995, they kind of started having like a full permanent lineup. Before that, they had different people coming in on the albums and probably playing live as well. And most notably, they had Jesper Strömblad and Niklas Englin, who founded the band and are now in a band called the Halo Effect. And I actually saw the Halo Effect live also, really good band. And it's a funny band because it's a band that has only people that have been members of In Flames at some point in time. And Mikael Stanne, the singer from Dark Tranquillity, he sang actually the first In Flames album. It's an interesting thing. But the lineup today is Björn Gelotte, who's the guitar player, but he started out as a drummer actually. And then you have Anders Friden, who's singing. He's been since '95. And Paul Bryce, he's been since 2017. He plays the bass. And then Tanner Wayne on drums since 2018. And then the new kid on the block is Chris Broderick. He just joined the band. He was touring with them, I think, 2019 to 22, and now he's kind of a full member of the band. And what is interesting about Chris Broderick is that he was a member of Megadeth, or I don't know if you can even be a member of Megadeth. I think Megadeth is just Dave Mustaine and then the people that he chooses to have around him. But he played with Megadeth, and I saw that when they played live. I saw that there was a different element somehow of guitar playing than what you typically would see in those Swedish bands. Let's say he brings something else and something extra, and I think it has had a positive effect on the band. And this is the first album that he's on with them. The band kind of, they made these legendary albums back in before, let's say 2002, 2006. They made Clayman, Horacle, Jester Race, and Colony, and they really had these are kind of landmark pioneer albums in that genre, and they had a great run with this in terms of, well, at least gaining popularity within the crew or group of people that likes that type of music. But then they kind of got into a different kind of style in some way. I don't know if you can call it metalcore or something like that, or some of it even kind of like straight up heavy metal with a little bit of a popish vibe sometimes. And that's kind of where I think they kind of went on a fishing journey. I was thinking, why would the band do that? Yeah, but I mean, first they need to evolve, and secondly, it's maybe a logical step to kind of try to grow a little bit. You kind of need to expand your audience, and I think they did that with these albums that came out from, let's say, 2004, 6-ish until basically until 2018 with the I the Mask, and for me, like, this is the stuff that I heard, and I didn't really like it, so I never got into this band because this is the stuff that I heard first, and I was like, no, I don't want to be into some emo music, and it just didn't strike a chord with me somehow, and but it worked for them, they sold millions of albums and gained a lot of fans, and now the question is, can they bring those fans on towards a journey towards more heavier stuff, which I think they're trying to do a little bit with this album. But my expectations were very torn. I'd seen them live, loved it, but yeah, and there were parts of last album that I liked, but there are also parts there that I was like, no, this is too much pop for me. So I was kind of hoping that I would love this because I fell in love with the band, and I'm gonna see them again live in the summer. So I was kind of like, yeah, I hope they come out with a good album where some songs that they can then play on that concert. It's 12 songs, 47 minutes. The cover is here. I'm not really sure what this is, but I feel that it fits very well within their usual theme somehow. I had heard the 5 singles. They released 5 singles out of 12. That's kind of crazy though. And they kind of grew on me. I mean, and they played, I think, 2 of them on the concert, and they were good, and people loved them. And the first listen that I took was here. You can see where I was. It's actually by the venue where I saw them live. Ironically, that was not a planned process. I go there quite a lot, not to the venue, but with the dog. And after the first listen, I was like, okay, yeah, this is like a 7.58 album. And let's see if that changes. It starts off the album a little bit weird, with an acoustic, nicely melodic thing that I thought was an intro, but it's actually a full song. And I was kind of waiting for it to lead into something heavier, but it didn't. So I was like, this isn't a good sign because, yeah, the singles had been kind of hard and heavy, and then they bring me this. Then it goes into the two of the singles, State of Slow Decay and Meet Your Maker. And those are both really, really solid songs, and heavy and fast mixed with clean vocals, growling. And I think on these songs, this is the In Flames that I fell in love with. This is the hard and heavy stuff. And I think the problem that I have with this music in general is the clean vocals. I've said that before. That for me, that's the thing that most easily can get wrong in heavy metal somehow. And I think with those 2 songs, I read somewhere that they said that they wanted to write songs and record songs that they could play live, because previously they had been doing a lot of stuff with like 3 guitars, and guitar harmonies for 2 guitars with playing the harmonies and 1 strumming the rhythm or riff or whatever. And I think those songs are definitely fitting into that sort of format. These will be, and they are great live. I've seen actually at least one of them live. And then they get into a song called Bleeding Out, I think, which is kind of has a cool Nordic theme start. It's reminded me a little bit of Amon Amar somehow, and it's slower and heavy, slower than the other 2 songs that were before, and I don't know. Here I feel that Anders does a really good job doing something I don't like, but making it cool with the clean vocals, and it has a super, 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 did I say super catchy chorus. But they do it so well that it doesn't get corny somehow. It's a great song, Bleeding Out. Then comes Foregone Part 1 and 2. So that's a cool thing, because they made 2 songs out of kind of a melodic theme, which is a very, again, like a Nordic vibe, almost like a folk song or something like that. And one of the songs is faster, the other one is slower, but the kind of the overarching theme is there. And I think that's really, really cool. I think they did this also on Clayman or Oracle or something. They had a song that was kind of split into 2 parts, and yeah, the first part is kind of hard, heavy, and dirty, and the second part is slower, and growling, fast guitars, cool solos, everything that I love about In Flames. And that brings me to the guitars. This Chris from Megadeth. I feel on this album there's a big step upward somehow from I the Mask, on this album with the guitar playing. And I'm not saying that Björn was not a good guitar player or the guy that was with him wasn't a good guitar player, but I just feel that he brought something in. Maybe he kind of revitalized Björn. When you show up to rehearsal and there's a really good guitar guy out there next to you, you're bound to kind of amp up a little bit or change something or learn something or whatever. I don't know. I'm not an expert. Then there's a song called Pure Light of Mind. I don't like that one. It's slow and kind of too popish and too much emo stuff. That's where they kind of cross the line for me. That's not a good song. The producer of this album, that song made me think about, like, okay, so who is doing this? And it's a guy called Howard Benson. He's done the last two albums with them, and he's produced, Motorhead, Papa Roach, Body Count, but he also did Creed. And for me, when I saw that, I was like, no, the guy that did Creed is going to do In Flames. That's not a good sign. The Great Deceiver song, that's kind of like a straight out banger. It's good, but it's nothing super special somehow. It doesn't leave, it comes and goes somehow. But I also, it has a nice blast beat and stuff like that. But that song kind of made me realize these guys don't make songs that are too long. They never kind of stretch it out too much. So even if a song isn't amazing or, some groundbreaking song, it never gets too much. It's all around like 4 minutes and kind of seems to fit into a standard formula somehow in a way. Yeah, after The Great Deceiver, there comes a song called In the Dark. It's for me, it's kind of a twisted song. It's the weirdest song on the album, both in actually, I think kind of only in a nice way. It kind of does what it says on the title in the beginning. It's kind of slow and heavy and dark, and the riffs are almost kind of like Rammstein-ish somehow, and they have some really uncomfortable guitars. It kind of reminded me of Slayer. There are some licks there or something that are almost unmelodic, like Slayer always did. But then after like 1.5 minutes, it breaks down into very clean vocals and changes over to a more kind of popish chorus, and then goes back to the darkness, but into more catchy somehow, and then brings us a melodic solo. I don't know, that song was kind of like, it was weird somehow. I like it, but there are parts of it that are too much somehow. Then there's a song called a dialogue in B flat minor, I think, yeah. And for me, the highlight of that song is kind of the title. I don't like this song, too much emo. And then the song Cynosure, I think, Cynosure. And I was like, when I saw that, okay, what the fuck does that even mean? And that means the person who is the center of attention. And it has it kind of revolves around a really cool bass line, and gives a little bit of a Paradise Lost feel. The vocal harmonies there, and then breaks out into a chorus that says, who's at the wheel? And that made me think, okay, so what is this about? Because you hear it a lot in football, this guy is at the wheel, about the football manager or something like that. And I think it's probably around some toxic relationships or something like that. And then I was checking the lyrical themes, and they are very much about this, like personal relationships, deeper thoughts and stuff like that, social structure or whatever. And yeah, some introspective stuff. But in this song, the bass line is kind of what holds it up, and it's a cool one, and nice to see the bass player get some moments in the sunlight. The last song is End the Transmission, and it's a super heavy song, but then he sings through some effect, and I don't know if what you call that effect or something. And I feel that the song is great, but that effect singing kind of takes a little bit out of it. I think it would have been a better song without that. So yeah, that was the last song. My verdict, I'm gonna give this 8.5. So it went from 8 after first listening to 8.5. I would put it right there under these legendary albums, Colony, Clayman, Horrorco. And the pros of this, it sounds great. It's a really good mix of all the instruments. You hear very clearly what's going on. The riffing is amazing, and I think on the great songs they do amazingly. I mean, like, yeah, there are 5, 6 songs at least on this album that I think will easily become very kind of popular in hindsight. Looking at, like, if you look through the catalog, you will find 5, 6 great songs on this album for sure. And I feel that they're a little bit revitalized somehow from the last album. That there is some edge that is brought in here, some heaviness that is back that wasn't there. It was partly there, but not fully, and I feel it's more of it now. So they kind of mix their old roots a bit more on top of the more recent stuff. They haven't completely abandoned that, but they're slowly getting into the heavier darkness somehow. The negatives, there are like 2 to 3 songs that where they kind of lose me at least, and I feel that, even if this album would have been just 9 songs, it would have been an overall stronger experience. And talking about the experience, that I feel that it's a little bit front loaded. It kind of starts off really well, apart from that acoustic thing in the beginning, which is cool but a bit weird. But it starts off very kind of heavy, strong, fast, and then it kind of loses a little bit but picks up again. And I think, yeah, the mix could have been a little bit better. And I don't think that the singles represent the overall experience of the album. I think the singles for me are, obviously I've heard them a lot, but they are the standout songs to a large extent, apart from then Bleeding Out song, which is great. Funny song though, Bleeding Out, because it kind of has all the stuff that I don't like, but they do it just so well that I start liking it. Now, what will the fans think? I think that they're managing to get back some of the fans that they might have lost when they kind of ventured into the more of a mainstream themes, and I think they will also manage to bring some of those guys with them. And this makes me think of bands like Volbeat. I know it's not the same thing, but Volbeat has kind of done the same. They went from heavier to a little bit lighter, and then now they're coming back more into the heavier. So, they cast the net out and they catch, and some of the small fish will fall out, but they will keep some of the bigger fish in the fan base. And yeah, I really look forward to seeing them in the summer. I think that it will be nice if they do 4 or 5 songs from this album. Usually you want the old stuff, but with these guys, I think they can shamelessly put a lot of the new stuff on the program. Tell me what you think about this album and where you would rate it in their catalog. Like, share, comment, and all that stuff. And yeah, I have some more stuff upcoming. I'm going to see Cataclysm and Soilwork soon, and yeah, some more gigs coming. Stay tuned, guys. See you around. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.